Like, they don't know what they're talking about.
And I love that you mentioned the MK party because let's talk about Duduzile Zuma. She's been in court since yesterday facing terrorism-related charges linked to the July unrest. You've worked closely with her, obviously.
Yeah.
Based on your
I've not
experience
worked closely with her. I worked closely with her father.
with her father, right?
Yeah, not with her.
But with your experience, is she capable of that level of coordination, or is this just like politically driven?
By the way, Duduzile has never said anything in my presence, like anything political. Like I've one day encouraged her to say something in a meeting. She's never said anything. The only thing I saw her do was to come to a meeting wearing a t-shirt written "Try Me Boys" or something like that. Celebrating her boyfriend. She has never said anything.
Yeah.
Like zero. And in majority of times, by the way, when I would go and see President Zuma and she will be there, President Zuma will be saying that, hey, yeah, like you would have to give space for the leadership to talk. Yeah. So, and there's never been a... But what I got to know as
Saul doesn't understand when you said she was celebrating a boyfriend.
I don't want to talk about...
Oh, Try Me Boys. It's a quote.
I don't know.
I see now. I see what you mean. Come on.
Yeah.
That is just never said anything. Zero. I think it's childish to play with guns, whether it's real or toy guns. If it's a toy gun, it's even worse.
Yeah.
I think it's childish. So I was there. I think the issue is sub judice. I don't know whether it's a toy gun or a real gun. I didn't touch it and everything else there. But I think general to play with guns is childish.
So you see,
and if it's a toy gun, it's even much more childish.
So you saw something wrong with it?
Like I don't associate with that. It's not my culture. It's not my style.
But are you not advising him to be like, don't do that, comrade?
People can do whatever they want to do. There's a lot of less than desirable things which many people that we work with do, and we just observe.
So did you mention this though? Like, because he says he was your guy. Did you say, hey, my man, I don't think that move was the smartest, bro?
Do you know, like, I'll tell you something that since 2018, if you were to calculate the amount of money that has been spent on lawyers and busing supporters to go and say hands off CIC, it's possibly about 50 million rand because of childish behavior. I don't associate with that. And I generally, even when I was in the EFF, because I attended some of the court cases, I was like, why should we leave the work of going to interact with branches on the ground and come and sit there in those hard benches for the whole day?
Do you think her father loved you, or he was just using you as a tool?
Look, I don't deal with politics like that, and I don't have that measurement stick of whether it's love or not and everything. So I agreed on principle on certain things, but also from outside, I had a lot of sympathy for MK, by the way, like, and more so because before Mkhonto Wesizwe was founded, I met with President Zuma in October here in Forest Town, in his house. And then he was explaining, before it was publicly announced to say that we're going to found an organization like this and that and that. And then after elections, actually we then agreed that time that no, go and found the organization. And then made a commitment on behalf of the EFF that, what this means is that we're not going to insult each other, because Julia's main politics that time was to insult Zuma, hey, big head, and all of those things. Hey, we'll pay back the money, it's a victory, and all of those things there. Then we said, no, we're going to persuade the leadership of the EFF to move away from insulting you and Mkhonto Wesizwe. So if you were to check during the election campaign of 2024, there were no official insults to President Zuma. I think we only did once in Soshangube somewhere when he realized that it looks like MK people are coming very strongly. And then after elections, I then got to see how the members of parliament of MK were struggling with basic things, and then would also always listen to them. And then there's a guy whom I had recruited to the EFF, who is a family member of President Zuma, called Makasela Mzobe. He was the head of presidency of MK. So he had joined the EFF. Then he came to me to say he wants to go to... He had joined the EFF. Then he said he wants to go to MK to go and assist. Then I said, please go, because there seem to be chaos. I can see with their members of parliament that they've got chaos. Then he went there and he couldn't resolve the chaos. Then, in that period, then President Zuma asked to see me. Then he explains that these people that I've assembled here do not have capacity. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they have to do. Please come and help us. My first approach was that, look, I can help you to formalize the organization. Because to formalize the organization, you need foundational documents. That is what I made a commitment. Then in the beginning, I was like, I can do it when I'm still the deputy president of the EFF. Then I was like, but why do I? Because it's not like, let me just go and join MK and assist from inside. There's a lot of less than desirable things which many people that we work with do, and we just observe.
So did you mention this though? Because he says he was your guy. Did you say, hey, my man, I don't think that move was the smartest, bro?
I'll tell you something that since 2018, if you were to calculate the amount of money that has been spent on lawyers and busing supporters to go and say hands off CIC, it's possibly about 50 million rand because of childish behavior. I don't associate with that. And I generally, even when I was in the EFF, because I attended some of the court cases, I was like, why should we leave the work of going to interact with branches on the ground and come and sit there in those hard benches for the whole day?
Okay, fact checker, you had your hand up?
I think the last time I saw Julius speaking was after I left the EFF. Then he went to Soweto. He says, comrades, we must reject everything else that the deputy president represented. Must remove everything. And then after that, he is quoting verbatim all the document that I've just written. Everything. There's the document called organizational redesign. Says, no, the organization must be like this. I'm like, you just said you must reject everything else that we have contributed. Yeah. I think that people must vote for a set of policy perspectives and commitments of organizations. I'm not a fan of hyper-presidentialism. There's a phenomenon which it almost defines almost all societies, and is very dangerous to politics, by the way, where the subjective position or positioning of a political leader determines everything else. I'll give you an example that the private views of President Mbeki when he was head of state on HIV/AIDS ended up being a government policy. And that is very problematic. When President Zuma was the head of state, his personal relationships with the Guptas ended up guiding what a lot of state departments do in relation to the Guptas. President Cyril Ramaphosa is head of state now. His association or affinity with the white capitalist establishment makes everyone else to think that they must tiptoe around the white capitalist establishment. And it's worse, there's extreme cases where the private views of a head of state in America just leads to even a war which is not justified, which no one can ever justify. I think politics must always be collective action. I don't believe in a hyper-presidentialism where...
But you never answered me.
With the
you never answered me. So then why would President Jacob Zuma say you know nothing about what you're doing?
So, I saw that clip actually. He was speaking to structures in Limpopo. So he said that there used to be no bala here. And he always does that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He does that with everyone. So there was a time we're talking something about Chris, and he says, referring to Chris, and then he says, Chris, and he says, yeah, Chris. So he always does that with everyone, right? And then he said, yeah, he did not know what was doing. And then he said, no, but there is something about that comrade, and I'm going to look for him and everything else there. I don't know what he says or what I meant when he says that he did not know what he was doing. I won all the by-elections I contested as MK Secretary General. There's never been any winning. All the by-elections after I've left, they are losing by-elections, all of them, back to back. I organized the first anniversary in Moses Mabhida. And I raised money from Kondo Esizwe. So the money which I got to be paid as salary from Kondo Esizwe is far lesser than what I brought to Kondo Esizwe.
I get you.
In terms of the gala dinner that we got to, majority of the people that paid for the gala dinner, I brought them to Mkonto Esizwe. I gave it some degree of respect and structure and system in terms of how. And I got to persuade a lot of people whom otherwise I could have not persuaded in Mkonto Esizwe. That is why in my buye now, a substantial number of people who are leaders and members of my buye. And then there's a guy whom I had recruited to the EFF, who is a family member of President Zuma, called Makazela Mzobe. He was the head of presidency of MK. So he had joined the EFF. Then he came to me to say he wants to go to... He had joined the EFF. Then he said he wants to go to MK to go and assist. Then I said, please go, because there seem to be chaos. I can see with their members of parliament that they've got chaos. Then he went there and he couldn't resolve the chaos. Then, in that period, then President Zuma asked to see me. Then he explains that these people that I've assembled here do not have capacity. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they have to do. Please come and help us. My first approach was that, look, I can help you to formalize the organization. Because to formalize the organization, you need foundational documents. That is what I made a commitment. Then in the beginning, I was like, I can do it when I'm still the deputy president of the EFF. Then I was like, but why do I? Because it's not like, let me just go and join MK and assist from inside. And there was no commitment on any position. And by the way, when I then took that decision, he says that, no, I actually want to announce you as the president of Mkonto Esizwe. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Like, we're in here in Sexen Hotel. And I refused. And then I said, never. And then I said, not even Secretary General. I'll just want to come and help. I don't want any position. Then we went to meet again in Durban, in Oyster Box Hotel, whatever, something like that. And then he says that, no, I've consulted with my people. You must be announced as a president. I said, no, I'll never be announced as a president. I won't be president of MK. I don't want to be president of MK. I don't want to occupy any senior responsibility.